Two, three. Let's see if this is working already so I don't get any of that annoying lag. I managed to mute my computer, so there's not going to be double talk. I hope. There I am. All right, I'm going to try to smile for this. Take a look at the camera so I'm not looking off in some other direction. Hey, it has been a minute. Well, it's been since like last Tuesday, I think. I went out live for a bit just to test it out, just to see if it's working. I think it is. And so there's a couple things I want to do today with everybody. Um, First off, I can't tell you how grateful I am that when I went live for like 45 seconds, I got a bunch of comments and people were with me already saying, "Hey, you're live. That's great. Where you been?" Nobody asked where I've been. That's okay. People were just like, "Hey, glad to see you." You know, nobody was like judging me or anything. Um, but it has been a while. It's been about 5 years since I've been active on YouTube. I even shut down my channel for a minute, or didn't like delete it, but kind of put it on mute for a while for my own reasons, which I may elaborate on at some point. Suffice it to say, I'm glad to be back. And today is going to be an experiment in a new way that I want to teach. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bunch of videos worth of content about Shavuot, this Jewish holiday that's coming up tomorrow night. I don't know that I've ever done a Shavuot video before. It's about time because it is about the most important, least noticed holidays of the Jewish calendar, maybe least noticed, most important holidays of the Jewish calendar. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but it's kind of a big deal. At least, I mean, it's in the Torah. It's one of the top holidays in the Torah. It's one of the kind of highest level of holidays in terms of immersive observance, if you will. And so, but it's one that's like kind of given a short shrift. Like people have great childhood memories of um, Pesach, and some people have great adult memories of Pesach. Some people love Sukkot, this wonderful festival of booths, tents, what have you. Passover, Pesach, as I said a minute ago. People know all about the high holidays. Some people are really cool about observing Shabbat every single week, or they find Shabbat is very cool to them, observing it every single week. But Shavuot, we don't talk about a whole bunch. And so today I'm going to talk about Shavuot a whole bunch. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous right now being live in front of all of you. Um, when I first started making videos, and I made like 300 YouTube videos, which is weird to think about and awesome and blah. Uh, but most of them were recorded videos where I could talk about something and I could edit out all the hips and hops and beeps, and boops. Not doing that right now. I'm just with you, excited to be with you. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share a bunch of information about Shavuot. I made myself a little outline. So if I keep looking down, it's not because, I don't know anything about Shavuot, although I'm still learning as we all are. But I just want to make some notes so that I make sure I cover the most important stuff for people who are just learning about this. Um, so I'm going to be talking about Shavuot. What I plan to do is then to take this longer video that I'm making right now and edit it into smaller videos that are more bite-sized, more concise, less, fewer tangents, maybe fewer nervous hems and haws, more educational, more digestible. So you might say, like the old Happy Days show, this Shavuot video is being filmed in front of a live studio audience, only it's the, YouTube studio, as it were. So I'm sharing this video with you live. We're going to be talking about Shavuot, I promise. So if people are like, "Oh, this video is long and boring, and he's not talking about Shavuot yet," just know that like this isn't for you. If you're turned off by long and boring stuff, I've got shorter videos for you coming out. I know as we hit Shavuot, which starts tomorrow night, there's going to be a spike in Shavuot search traffic, and hopefully you will be able to find a few concise videos that I'm making just for you. But this is for the home crowd. This is from home my homeboys and home girls and home people, home thems, who have been with me for a long time. Got a lot of subscribers on this channel, and about 5-ish years ago, no, gosh, about 5 years ago, I basically stopped making videos, and I'm not 100% sure why. I know a little bit why, and I'll share with you some why, but I've just wanted to get back into it lately. And I was just telling my wife that, and she's like, "You'll be fine. It's just like riding a bike." You ever heard that expression? If there's something that you're nervous about doing and you haven't done it in a while, and somebody says, "Oh, it's just like riding a bike," right? Meaning it's easy to get back into it. And I said, and my reply was, "Did I ever tell you about that time I got hit by a car riding on a bike?" She's like, "Oh, never mind." So a perfectly safe environment, full of friends, and I'm delighted to be here. So once again, in a minute, I'm going to start talking about Shavuot. I want to say shout outs to people who have been well wishers this whole time. Uh, about about 5 years ago, 4.5, 5 years ago, it was pre-COVID, so everything's like kind of a fog. I took a job as the senior rabbi at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. A wonderful, wonderful place. A wonderful place full of wonderful human beings, like multiple generation families there. About, I don't know, 450 families. I think my email list was like 1,100 souls. So a wonderful synagogue in beautiful Pasadena, California. And once I took that job, I was there for as kind of the interim rabbi for a while. They were between rabbis. They needed somebody. I knew the cantor's husband, and he reached out to me. And so I came in for a couple of B'nai Mitzvah celebrations. Then I started coming more regularly. Then I was the interim rabbi, and then I was the head rabbi there. And so once I took that job, it became, as they say, it focuses the mind. Many people are concerned when they reach out to rabbis, especially people watching this, and maybe they're not connected to a Jewish community or a synagogue or a rabbi. They say, "Oh, I tried to email a rabbi, but he never answered my emails, and so it must be something I said or something I did." No, never the case. Just rabbis at synagogues are terribly busy people, because once you take on that role of being the spiritual leader of a community, you have to be fully present for everything, right? It is a 20, some people joke and say it's a 24/6 job. It is not. It's a 24/8 job, if you can dig it. 26/8 maybe. And I'm not saying that to complain, but it was just that once I was there for them, I was there for them. Absorbed all of my attention, and so I wasn't making as many YouTube videos, or I made some YouTube videos specifically for the congregation on the congregation's YouTube channel. So I kind of dropped out of this world of my channel for a while, and that was the right thing to do at the time. Um, and so about a year ago, uh, I think to the day, this might be the anniversary of my last day there. I decided, well, I didn't decide it a year ago. I decided before that, but about a year ago, I retired from that role at that congregation. And that was the right thing to do for me. And it was a wonderful place to be. When I was talking to a friend about leaving the congregation, and she said, "Well, how long have you been there?" And I said, "Well, I've only been there for, about 4 years, but it was COVID. So, 28." It was a very intense time to be on the Bema, a very intense time to be a human being for all of us, I think. Maybe just me, I don't know. Um, and so we went through something significant together. And then it came time for one of my children's B'nai Mitzvah celebration. My daughter was celebrating becoming Bat Mitzvah. And I realized when I was a part of that celebration at the synagogue, it was wonderful, right? It was so great. Most of the time, I was there for other families while they were doing this. As the rabbi on the bima, that's the raised platform pulpit, if you will. So I got to be the kind of spiritual caretaker for families going through this wonderful celebration. And then when it was my turn for my kid, one of the other rabbi at the synagogue, Rabbi Amy Gerasi of blessed memory, said, "You know what? I got you." Um, I'm getting emotional thinking about her because she passed a little less than a year ago. Um, but she was the rabbi on the bima, and I got to sit with my family. And at some point, while enjoying the service, from the cheap seats, as I say, I realized it was only about the second time in 8 years that I'd sat with my family during services, and that got to me. And again, it's not a complaint. It's some rabbis navigate that very well in terms of like having a family while being the rabbi of a congregation. Um, I wouldn't say that I managed it poorly, although I probably did. Um, but it's it. I was sort of I felt at that moment like I wanted to be more. Um, it became more important to me to be a Jew with my family than to be a rabbi with a community. And that's when the seed sort of planted. And then I decided, you know what, this has been wonderful. Made a lot of friends, taught a lot of Torah. I'm going to go do something else. And so a few months later, I left the synagogue and I decided to really focus on what I love the most. The thing that I love the most about being a rabbi throughout my rabbinic career at Pasadena, at Burbank Temple Emmanuel, and on this channel is teaching. I love to teach. I know I'm doing a boring job of it right now, but I love to teach Torah. I love to teach in a kind of small classroom setting or just one-on-one like this kind of. Um, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to focus 100% on that. And uh, since leaving the pulpit or the bima, the synagogue rabbinate, I've become a teacher in many respects. I teach Hebrew at a local high school. I teach in a Talmud Torah. It's a sort of the best Christian translation is Sunday school. It's like a supplementary school after school hours. I continue to teach the Miller Intro to Judaism class, which I've taught for about 10 years now running. And so maybe 11. I think I actually started before I was ordained. Um, so I teach in like three different classroom settings. I've taught a little bit online since departing from Pasadena, but now I'm focusing 100% on the part of the job of being a rabbi that I love the most. What I have missed is connecting with you guys. And so while I've been focused on setting up those other, really integrating into new classroom environments, I kind of put my channel on pause for a while. It was a lot to maintain. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm probably seeing some of it already. It's hard being a rabbi on YouTube when you take comments personally. Not that I'm like crying uncle on comments. It's just that if you post anything Jewish to YouTube, the it's like the Daily Stormer in your comments. All the anti-Semites come out, whether they're anti-Semites from the right, anti-Semites from the left, centrist anti-Semites. People have a problem with Brit Milah. Like everything is like there's a lot of people posting a lot of negative stuff. I wasn't in the headspace to deal with that, so I shut down my comments. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to just shut everything down. I'm going to spend a year focusing on my classroom students. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to center myself. And then I'm going to, at some point, figure out how to come back stronger. And I feel like I have. And so now I'm here. That's where I've been for the last 5 years. I was at a synagogue for a while. I was on sabbatical for a while, and now I am back, y'all. And I'm still trying to figure out how to be back, y'all. Again, riding a bike. Sometimes there's a car. So I'm going to check the comments real quick just to see what people are up to. Got it. Oh, there's Vit. Oh, man, I'm so proud of you, brother. I'm gonna cry right now. Like Vit has been with me for a long time. See some other people who've been here with me for a long time. Uh, so yeah, thank you. Brent says I'm not boring yet. Just wait, Brent. I've got more boring in store for you. Rivka Elisheva, so many cool people that I haven't seen in a minute. I'm glad you're here. All right, so let's get into it. Maybe I'll have more about my journey over the last year. I've relocated. I'm no longer in beautiful sunny Southern California. I am now in the great cold north of Minnesota. We decided to move back here to be close to some family, especially when I'm not connected to a synagogue in SoCal anymore. We thought, hey, why don't we go someplace where we can afford to buy a house? Isn't that great? I tell people back in Burbank, like, if you want to know what houses cost in Minneapolis, just again, I'm sharing all sorts of personal information. Please don't bomb my house. Um, if you want to know what it's like to buy a house in Minneapolis, like, look at a house in Burbank and then take your finger and put it over the one in the number of the housing prices. Right? Like, any house in Minneapolis, the same house in Burbank, you put a one in front of it. It just means like this plus $1 million. So we're in a place that's wonderfully sustainable for our family, and it's green, which is crazy. Like, living in SoCal for 14 years, all the green is manufactured. That's where the place where dreams are made. So this is actually green, out of the box. It's raining a lot here. I forgot what these Midwest summer storms are like. That's been a thing. So anyway, here in a wonderful new place. That's, maybe hence the flannel, I guess, even though it's like 70 degrees outside. That's cold because I've been living in Los Angeles for so long. So that's what I've been up to. I'm going to hopefully do more of these live videos. Again, today is an experiment. I'm going to talk a lot about Shavuot in just a second. And then I'll probably edit some of that down into more bite-sized videos for people with who are on the go, who need just a quick one espresso shot of Jewish learning. So we're going to be talking about. Let me check my notes here. We're going to be talking about when is Shavuot. I'm like, what questions do people have about Shavuot? So I was like, questions about Shavuot. Google, give it up. So I'm just gonna hit the journalistic questions. When is Shavuot? What is Shavuot? What exactly are we celebrating? So why is Shavuot? Like, why do we have this holiday? Um, how is Shavuot? What are the things that we do? So be talking a lot about that. If you have questions about Shavuot that I don't cover, or even that I do, maybe I haven't covered them yet, throw those in the comments. I'll look at the comments periodically. So again, it's all about Shavuot. Probably the least, how do I say this? I don't want to like denigrate the holiday at all. Heaven forbid. It is one of the big holidays in the Torah. It's mentioned right there in the book of Exodus and several other times. I think the timing is it's in the book of Exodus. It's Exodus chapter 34, verse 22. I've got the Hebrew pulled up on Safari, but essentially it's like you're going to have a harvest festival at a certain time of year. So it's in the Torah as one of the three pilgrimage festivals, or the Shalosh Regalim. It's one of the handful of days where we have observances that are very much like Shabbat in their relaxing nature, right? Every week on Shabbat, we're supposed to not do some work. And so I say some work, like some kinds of work we don't do, like we still breathe, we still, move through space. So physics happens, but we don't do creative work. And so the other holidays where that pertains is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, uh, Pesach or Passover, Shavuot. That's this holiday we're talking about, and Sukkot. And so this is a big deal, right? Top five, being Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach or Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Top five Jewish holidays that are mentioned in the Tanakh. Like, there aren't a lot of other Tanakh-based holidays. So this is kind of a big deal, but it's also the one that I think gets the least love in terms of, like, people make plans for Rosh Hashanah. They're like, what are we going to cook for dinner on Rosh Hashanah? Who are we going to invite over? Yom Kippur. Better have a place to go to services that day. Let's plan. Let's join a synagogue or get tickets or something like that. Pesach, a lot of planning. People like clean their house for a month and then celebrate it for a week. Sukkot, probably the most popular holiday among rabbis today, but also most popular holiday in the Talmud, where they just called it Hechag, the festival. So if somebody said the festival, you knew that they were talking about Sukkot. Shavuot, not so much. Or Shavuos, as it's pronounced in Ashkenazi pronunciation of Hebrew. I remember once talking to the president of the synagogue that I started at in Burbank, he once used this expression. I asked him, it's like, oh, so when's the next time we have to go through this budget process or so? I asked him like when something was happening in the distant future, and he said, oh, not till not till after Shavuos. And I'm like literally, like right after the holiday of Shavuot. He says, no, no, that's just something people say. Not till after, like, if something is so remote in the future as to not worry about it or not think about it, the expression was not till after Shavuos, right? Because Shavuot just isn't a holiday that's on a lot of not it's not on a lot of people's radar. I was listening to this lecture, another rabbi who's on YouTube, Manis Friedman, um, complicated character. He was saying that, like, but I want to give credit where credit's due. He was saying that people don't have warm memories of Shavuot like they do other Jewish holidays. Like when you're a kid, well, let's say you're born Jewish. Not everybody watching this is or making this is. Uh, you have these childhood memories of getting ready for Passover and then the big Seder with the big family and stuffed frogs and things like that. Sukkot, there's, you build a hut in your backyard, and maybe your parents don't use power tools any other time of the year, but they they do for when they're making a hut in the backyard. Um, but there's no hut for Shavuot. There's no house cleaning for Shavuot. Uh, Passover and Sukkot, 7 days long, 8 days if you're in the diaspora. Um, Shavuot, one day, or 2 days in the diaspora, but it's like 1 or 2 days versus 7 or 8 days. Um, so it's one of the holiest days of the year that people don't think about that much, right? It's also happens to be right in the beginning of the summer. So the date is it's the sixth day of the month of Sivan, which usually translates as to like late May, early June of the Gregorian secular calendar, and so it's like schools just let out, people are on vacation, right? Or they're thinking about vacation. Nobody's thinking about Shavuot. So I'm just trying to figure out why this holiday isn't a bigger deal, because it's very important in the time of the Torah, and less observed now. So all the more, maybe that's why I haven't made a video about it yet. But all the more so, I want to be making this video to answer people's questions about Shavuot. Thank you. um, that just reminded me of in the past when I have sponsored people for conversion. I might tease them a little bit, where people are nervous before they convert and they study a lot. Some people make flashcards about all the Jewish stuff that they've learned, and I say, all right, I want to make sure you're ready for your Beit Din. So pop quiz, hot shot. How many bulls do we sacrifice on the third day of Shavuot? And they look at their cards and they look at me and they look at their card and they freak out because like, oh, I forgot, Rabbi. I was like, I'm just kidding. There's only 2 days of Shavuot. It's a trick question. That's exactly the kind of question you are not asked at your Beit Din. I don't want to spoil it for you because everybody should be as nervous as I was. But so that so I've told that story 1,000 times to certain people, and Vit is one of those people. So um, going to get right into it. This is the Shavuot series of videos being filmed in front of a live studio audience of the YouTube studio. And so first, we're going to ask the question, when is Shavuot? This is like now my printer decides to recalibrate its cartridges. Really? This is why I should never do stuff live. You done? Oh, come on. Okay, here we go. When is Shavuot? This is one of the number one questions asked about Shavuot on Google, on YouTube, and all the search engines. So I want to make sure you have the correct date in your calendar. I'm recording this video live in the year 2024 of the Common Era. And so in 2024 of the Common Era, or 5784, I think, in the Jewish calendar, Shavuot falls on June 11th through 13th. So it starts at the sundown of June 11th. Many people celebrate it for one day. If you're in Israel or if you're in the Reform movement in the U.S., you celebrate it for one day. So it's the sundown of the 11th till the sundown of the 12th of June of 2024 of the Common Era. If you are a conservative Jew or Orthodox Jew, or you want to observe two-day holidays in the diaspora, which is our custom, it goes through the 13th at sundown. So it's starts at whoever you are. Shavuot starts at sundown, June 11th, 2024 of the Common Era, and then ends either one or two sundowns after that. So that is the answer to the question, when is Shavuot? Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos from me, hit the subscribe button, and check out some of these other videos on my channel, or buy my book on Amazon. And so, sorry, it's been a while, guys. In any case, I can't wait to see you again. And until next time, peace. Just kidding. That was for one video. We're going to do a bunch of these. This is what it's like when you are behind the curtain, as you are. And I'm seeing people start to talk with each other on the chat. This is why I love teaching live. All right. So I see Kay Dixie. I see Vit Yermolowitz watching this on the chat. I shouldn't say names. I'll edit those out. But anyway, sorry, I get weird about internet privacy these days, especially when something is okay. Thanks again, Vit. Okay, so when is Shavuot? It is the 6th day of Sivan. Sorry, I'm having some nostalgic flashbacks myself with some great friends in the chat, Kay and Vit among them, and more. Okay, so now we're going to answer the question, what is Shavuot? Thank you for watching this video. If you're curious about what the holiday of Shavuot is, or you might hear some people pronounce it Shavuos, that's an Ashkenazi pronunciation versus a Sephardi pronunciation. I'll probably say Shavuot, just to out of solidarity with my friends in Israel. So Shavuot is a biblical holiday that we're going to talk about in just a second. First, I just want to thank you for tuning into my channel. I highly encourage you to subscribe to this channel. And if you will, even just give that little notification bell a little ring-a-ding-ding. That way, every time I make a video, and I hope to make a lot of them, you'll be notified first. It's cool to be on the inside, right? So back to the question, what is Shavuot? Shavuot is a biblical holiday. That is it is a holiday that is in the Torah. It's a Jewish holiday that's in the Torah, and it is. Boy, I'm going to edit a lot of this stuff out. What is Shavuot? I'm just having so much fun right now. What is Shavuot? Thank you for asking. I'm delighted to talk about this holiday, which is kind of like the least popular of the most important Jewish holidays. I'll have more to say about that. So Shavuot is a holiday that's mentioned in the Torah. Among other places, it's mentioned in the book of Exodus or Shemot, in chapter 34, verse 22, I believe. Let me pull that up. I could read it to you in Hebrew in case you're curious. Where is it? Huh. I thought I had that up. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. This is what the editing software is for. Here it says in Sefer Shemot, or the book of Exodus, chapter 34, verse 22, V'hag Shavuot ta'aseh lacha. You shall observe a festival of weeks. Shavuot means weeks. And let's see, Bikorei Katsir Hitim. It is the first fruits of wheat. It's the first fruits of the wheat harvest. V'hag Asif Tukufat Hashanah. And it also talks about Sukkot. It also talks about the holiday of Sukkot, V'hag Asif, the harvest festival at the turn of the year, right? Whereas this happens 50 days after the beginning of the year, then Sukkot happens at the turn of the year, the 7th month, or the month of Tishrei. So, but right now we're talking about Shavuot. Like I said, the word Shavuot is Hebrew for weeks. So Chag HaShavuot is feast or festival of weeks. In many translations, you might see it the Feast of Weeks. You might have also heard the word Pentecost. This is a word that Jews of the Hellenistic period used when many of them were speaking Greek as their vernacular language. Pentecost means 50 something. And so Shavuot is always celebrated 50 days after the holiday or after the beginning of the holiday of Pesach or Passover. The rule for Passover is right after Passover starts, we start this period of Omer. We count the Omer for a week of weeks. That is 49 days. So 7 times 7. So starting right after Passover, every day we count 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and so on. We count Omer or sheaves of barley, whereas Passover was a holiday that coincided with the barley harvest. Shavuot is the holiday that coincides with the wheat harvest, which happened approximately 50 days after the barley harvest started. And so we count 49 days. So we count 49 days. Then on the 50th day, we celebrate Shavuot. Now, in the Torah, again, it mentions this specifically as the time of reaping of wheat, where you start cutting your wheat and you make an offering of the first fruits, or rather, the first stuff that you're getting out of your wheat harvest, which is a real act of faith. Like, you don't know what your harvest is going to be like, and you take your first stuff and give it to God. That's saying something. Like, whatever we get first, God gets some, and then we'll see what we have left over. That is an act of faith. And so throughout the Torah, this holiday, this feast of weeks, this festival that we have a week of weeks after Passover, is about kind of an agricultural significance. Later in the time of the Talmud, the rabbis are trying to figure out when that when a particular event happened, and I said, oh, it happened around the 6th of Sivan, which just so happens to be 50 days after the 15th of Nisan. And so there was already a harvest festival going on, but they also figured there was something very important that happened on that day also, and that was the revelation of the Torah, or at least the beginning of the revelation of the Torah. As the story goes, we leave Egypt. That's another holiday, that's Passover. We leave Egypt, we walk in the wilderness, and at some point, we just need a book. I don't know if you've ever been on a journey like that where you're just like, I wish I had a book. But this was more important than that. So when we leave Egypt, we are suddenly free people, people who have been raised in generations of slavery as urban construction workers, now had the obligation of forming a society that they could govern themselves. And so what they did was, I'm sorry, I keep pausing because my dogs are whining back there, and I don't know whether the noise filter is catching it. And so while we're trying to figure out who we are, we keep asking Moses these questions about everything. Like, oh, is adultery wrong? Is it okay? Like, there was adultery over there. Is it okay if I murder that guy? Is this chicken kosher? All these questions that we kept asking Moses. His father-in-law said, dude, you should delegate. That's another story. But then finally Moses goes to God and says, God, we need something. Give me something here so that I'm not adjudicating these people's questions all day and bothering you with trivialities. Can't you just give us some kind of guide? And so God's like, tell you what I'm going to do. We've been marching for about 49 days now-ish. So what I want you to do is get everybody by that mountain over there. We're in the Sinai Peninsula. There's the Sinai mountain range. Go to that mountain over there, and you may remember that mountain because that's where the burning bush was, Moses. Go to that mountain over there and have everybody wait. You're going to wait for 3 days. Everybody's supposed to wash their clothes and no monkey business, but just going to chill. And at the end of 3 days, I will give you a guide. So the people go to the mountain, they camp out. God said, wash your clothes for some reason. I mean, these folks have been walking through the desert for a long time. Clothes are pretty dirty. God's coming to town. Do your laundry. So everybody's waiting out by the mountain. And finally, on the morning of the third day, there's this tremendous sound, right? There's the sounds of shofars being blown, even though nobody had maybe people had shofars with them, but there was like another shofar going on. There was thunder, there was lightning. It was very, very frightening. There was fire. It was crazy. And suddenly this voice comes out and says 10 things. And so this is the Aseret HaDibrot, or the Decalogue, also known as the Ten Commandments. In the Hebrew, it's actually the 10 statements. And this was God giving God's first encouragement, guidance to us as a people. Up to that point, God had talked to Abraham. God had talked to various members of that family. God had talked to Moses, maybe to Aaron a little bit. But God hadn't spoken to everybody at once until that moment. And what that moment does is it answers a very important question. The question starts when we leave Egypt, right? We are now free. We can do anything we want. The question is, that being the case, what should we do? Now that we are a free people, how do we govern ourselves as a just people? How do we conduct our lives in a holy way? And so that's the question that is created by our liberation from Egypt at Passover. And after wandering in the wilderness, when we're really hungry for knowledge, we get the answer. Here is a guide to life for a free people. And that is now what we celebrate on Shavuot, because the rabbis and the Talmud figured out that it took them about 50 days to get there. Plus, then there's the camping, right? But on the 50th day, that about the 6th of Sivan, and some rabbis love to argue. Another rabbi said 7th of Sivan. But on the 6th of Sivan, we figured we got the Torah, happened to fall on the wheat harvest festival, Hag Shavuot. And so look, as long as you're partying, let's party about this, because this is a big deal, right? If Passover is about our redemption as a people, of God remembering God's covenant with us and taking us out of Egypt and creating us as a nation, then this is the constitution of our nation. You can think of it a little bit like, this is how I think about it, is like we have 1776 and then we have 1789. I hope I got that date correct. It's been a while since I've been in civics class, but like we declare our independence as Americans. I know other people watching this aren't all Americans, but as Americans, we had to declare our independence. We had to fight for it. And then once we got it, we had to figure out what to do with it. And so we had the constitutional conventions put together. I know Thomas Jefferson was involved. And then years after our liberation, we have our revelation. We have the writing down of our principles that would be sacred to us as Americans. That's not a perfect comparison, but it's just a metaphor, right? First, we had to be liberated people. We had to be free people before we could be taught how to be responsible people. And so that is why we celebrate this holiday of Shavuot. It is the Feast of Weeks because it takes 7 weeks for us to get from Egypt to Mount Sinai. Then we get the Torah revealed to us. Actually, we just get the top 10 revealed to us as the story goes, after we hear these 10 very important things: the unity of God, respect for our elders, right? Honoring our mother and father, which I think is also honoring God and honoring our tradition. The commandment to celebrate Shabbat, which is the only ritual commandment in the top 10, but then a lot of other important principles of interpersonal human ethic: not murdering, not kidnapping, not messing with other people's relationships, not wanting stuff that other people have, but being happy with what we have. And after all of that, people were like, that's cool, but it's kind of loud. Moses, can you just go up to the top of the mountain and get the rest of this book? And he did. And he went up to the top of the mountain. He was there for 40 days and 40 nights. And our tradition holds that he took dictation on the rest of the Torah from God at that point. So that's what Shavuot is. It's the celebration of receiving the Torah from God at Mount Sinai. It coincides with a biblically ordained wheat harvest festival that is supposed to happen 50 days after Passover. I've got more to say about the traditions of Shavuot. You'll have to stick around for that for another video. And like, why do we eat cheesecake? Like, what does any of this have to do with cheesecake? Stay tuned for that. Until next time, friends. Peace. Oh, and make sure you watch another video on this channel. Check out my book that's on Amazon. People read that from time to time. I read it from time to time. It's like, oh my gosh, I did that. I can't believe it. Um, and I hope we can learn more together soon. Until next time, peace. Okay, sticking around for a little bit longer. Let's see. We've talked about when is Shavuot. We've talked about what is Shavuot. What do we do on Shavuot? Before I get into that, I'm just going to see the chat real quick. I don't know. Is this working out for you guys? Is this boring? I don't know. Is this, are you just happy to see each other again? Which is often the case when people go back to school. So I'm going to check the chat. Uh, all right. Yippee, it's Rabbi John. Nice to see you. All right. Don't go away if you're still watching. We're going to do a little bit more here, or if you're still watching and you want to go away, go away. You do you. You are in choice, as my meditation teacher says. Oh, by the way, I've gotten super into meditation in the last few years. Lately, I've been doing some work with the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, or IJS. I'm part of their clergy leadership cohort. And so there's going to be just a little teaser. There's going to be more stuff on this channel about meditation, about Jewish mindfulness or Jewish approaches to mindfulness. So maybe even some live sits where if I can figure out a stable time to do this, probably not this week. Next week I'm on vacation, but after that, I want to do some regular meditation together if that's something that's helpful for you. All right, let's see. Let's get into what we do on Shavuot. Going back to the live. Okay. Thank you for being a good live studio audience. Really delighted to be here with all of you. If you're just tuning in, I'm Rabbi John Carrier. It has been a minute. It's been about 5 years since I've made videos on a regular basis for reasons I've already talked about. I'm happy to be getting back into it, even though my puppies are whining outside. They're just going to have to learn to live with it. They've been out. I let them out. I'm not a cruel puppy dad. I let them out right before I came in here. Now they're just bored. Okay, so in just a minute, we're going to talk about the customs of Shavuot, what you might notice at the synagogue that's a little bit different, what you might do at home. You do you. So here we go. What do we do on Shavuot? I'm glad you asked. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Rabbi John Carrier, your friendly neighborhood rabbi. Happy to be here with you, heroes, once again. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be teaching in this medium again. And we are going to be talking about the things that we do on Shavuot. In other videos, I've talked about when it is and what it is or why it is. Why do we celebrate it? I wanted to give you the lowdown on some customs and traditions that are unique to this beautiful holiday where we celebrate getting probably the greatest gift that anybody ever got, that is the Torah. Um, if this is your first time watching one of my videos, I highly suggest that you subscribe to this channel. Maybe ring a ding ding that little notification bell there. That way you know every time another video drops and you won't miss a beat. It's cool to be on the inside, yo. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like it at any point, if you like anything about it at all, give it a thumbs up. That'll help other people find useful information for them. But now some useful information for you. The question at hand is, what do we do on Shavuot? So Shavuot, let me start talking about what we don't do on Shavuot. An important thing to know about Shavuot it is that it's one of the most important holidays of the Jewish calendar. It's one of the top 5 holidays mentioned in the Torah. Of course, we have the high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And then we have the 3 pilgrimage festivals, or the Shalosh Regalim. And they're called pilgrimage festivals because in ancient times, when we first reclaimed the land of Israel following leaving slavery in Egypt about 3,200 years ago, settler colonial, my Aunt Fanny. Um, sorry, I had to throw that in. I didn't mean to be political, but you know who you are. So, about, when we entered the land under the leadership of Joshua, the Torah decreed all sorts of holidays for us to recognize the abundance of the earth. the big three were all harvest festivals of Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And because they're a big deal, the Torah says you are not to do work on these days or creative labor, no melacha. And where else do we see that word creative work or melacha? And that has to do with Shabbat. So on Shavuot, we have a similar refraining from creative labor that we do on Shabbat. So basically, anything you wouldn't do on Shabbat, you don't do on Shavuot. You preserve the peace of that day, except cooking. One thing that's true about all of the pilgrimage festivals, including Shavuot, is while you might refrain from going to your normal job, it's totally cool to cook. You know, for Shabbat, you cook ahead of time so that you can eat and not worry about it. But for Rosh Hashanah, but for Passover, for Shavuot and Sukkot, also for Rosh Hashanah, it's okay to do work about cooking when you're like feeding yourself or feeding your family or feeding guests. It's a holiday. Yom Kippur, no cooking. Why? No eating. It's like, cooking might lead to dancing. I don't know how that works. So anyway, what we don't do on Shavuot is work. Why? So that we can preserve this holy day for other things that are related to the holiday. Many people go to services on Shavuot, just like Passover has special services. It's the regular, evening and morning and afternoon services, but they're jazzed up a little bit for Shavuot. Right. They have the normal holiday stuff like Hallel. One important thing that people do on some holidays is Yizkor. So the Yizkor service is a memorial service for people in our lives who passed away. We do that four times a year. We do that four times a year on Yom Kippur, and then three pilgrimage festivals on Yom Kippur, and then the three pilgrimage festivals like Shavuot. And if you're in a place that celebrates Shavuot for 2 days, I think it's usually on the second day. So we have so we have services like we have services on Shabbat or other holidays, but they're longer because we have additional stuff on Shavuot, things that we do that we never do any other time. We have certain liturgical poems like the Akdamut or the Azharot. These are piyutim or liturgical poems that came out of our history that we now do on Shavuot. There's also a very important thing that we do on Shavuot during services. That is, we read the book of Ruth or Sefer Ruth or Megillat Ruth. This is a story about a woman who wasn't born Jewish, but had become a part of a Jewish family. I don't want to spoil it for you. Read it yourself. But anyway, that story involves Ruth. But anyway, that story involves Ruth being with her mother-in-law Naomi through some tough times. They were so broke they had to go like pick up after people who were harvesting in a field, also known as gleaning. And because so much of the story of Ruth has to do with the harvest, we attach it to this harvest festival of Shavuot. But there's another connection between Shavuot and the book of Ruth in that Shavuot is where God reveals the Torah to all of the Jewish people, and we are, as my meditation teacher says, in choice as to whether we accept it or not. There's a midrash about maybe our arms would twist it a little bit. But in any case, that this is the holiday of the Jewish people accepting Torah, and Ruth, who becomes a Jewish person, then accepts Torah herself. Not for nothing, Shavuot is kind of a big deal holiday to people who converted to Judaism, right? Because this is kind of like our personal revelation, if you will. There's an old midrash that says that when God revealed the Torah at Mount Sinai, uh, not just every Jew who was alive at that time was at the base of Sinai to receive it, but also the souls of every Jewish person who would ever live, including the souls of every person who would convert to Judaism at some point. So all of us were there. And we read the book of Ruth to commemorate this personal revelation along with our national revelation, if you will. Another thing that we do on Shavuot that's less of a big deal on other days is dairy foods, especially sweet dairy foods, dairy desserts, and things like that. I'm often asked, like, what's the source of this custom? Why do we have cheesecake and ice cream specifically on Shavuot? Blintzes are popular. And like many Jewish customs, the reason is overdetermined. That means there's a lot of different answers, any of them good answers. Here's a couple of my favorites. One is the idea that when the Torah was revealed, it was sweet for the people, and that people hearken back to the words of Shlomo Melech or King Solomon in the poem he wrote, the Song of Songs, that it is like milk and it's sweet for us like milk and honey, referring to the Torah, right? So if Torah is sweet like milk and honey, let's make sweet dairy desserts. Another nerdier reason, or another less, poetic reason, is that once the people got the commandments, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, it's just not mixing meat and milk. That wasn't in the top 10, but it came later, right? Suddenly they were freaked out. They're like, oh, we've been eating meat wrong this whole time, or we didn't know it was cool, but like now it's like there's only certain kinds of animals and we have to harvest them and prepare them a certain way. So let's just throw out all the meat that we have. We'll have dairy and that'll be fine until we figure out how to put meat back on the menu, boys. Little Lord of the Rings reference wherever I can. And so some people say because we didn't know how to keep kosher and separate milk and meat yet, we just stuck with the dairy. We did have a lot. We were like livestock people. Oh, there's the dog. This is why I can't do live streams. Hey, Callie. Hey, sweetheart. Yeah, this is another thing that's happened since in the last 5 years. We've become a dog family. Now we're a two dog family. I don't know if you saw the other one. So anyway, I guess that door remains open for the rest of the video, unless I get up and you see the shorts that I'm wearing. Um, it's fun about teaching on YouTube. So where was I? Okay. So like I said, we have dairy desserts. We read the Book of Ruth. We have special poems as a part of longer services. There's Yizkor in those services. If you're a person who has a loved one who's passed, it's one of those times of the year where we get together to remember those folks in the company of other people who are in mourning as well. The last thing I'll mention is this practice we have called Tikkun Leil Shavuot. In simple terms, you might have noticed in Jewish communities on Erev Shavuot, that is like right as the sun goes down in the beginning of Shavuot, people will engage in all night or at least late night Torah study. And I know if you go to places that have a lot of Jews, like Pico Robertson neighborhood in Los Angeles, parts of Brooklyn or Manhattan, they will literally have lectures and Torah study sessions that go all night. You'll see people walking down the streets with a Tanakh under their arms. It's amazing. They go from synagogue to like shop around for the best learning. In some places, we just do late night. There wasn't, when I was in Pasadena and Burbank, nobody was up for all night. But so we would go to like, I don't know, 10, maybe 11, depending on how good the cheesecake was. But it's a custom to study Torah late at night, all night if you can, until the break of dawn, to quote great Jewish musicians, the Beastie Boys. And I love the reason for this. When I first heard it, it's called Tikkun Leil Shavuot, or completing the night of Shavuot. But there's another interpretation of that Tikkun Leil Shavuot. Tikkun is like rectification, or like fixing a mistake. There's a midrash that says that when the Jewish people were camped out in front of the mountain where they were going to receive the Torah, they were in great deal of anticipation. They did laundry. They were minding their P's and Q's, and then they fell asleep and slept. Dogs. This is live radio, people. Then they fell asleep and slept in on the morning they were supposed to receive the Torah. And so that's why the shofars were so loud to wake them up. And so to make up for that moment of almost missing the 10 commandments, We now stay up all night and study Torah so that we will be awake and fully prepared to receive the Torah, which was, again, the greatest gift anybody ever got, from my perspective, because was so important that this newly freed people had a guide for how to also be a just and holy people. So those are the things that we do on Shavuot. One last thing, people often ask, like, how do you greet people on Shavuot? You know, various holiday. There's Shabbat Shalom. There's Shana Tova. Have a good New Year for Rosh Hashanah. Tzom Kal for Yom Kippur, or easy fast. Simply on Shavuot, we'll say Chag Sameach, or Happy Festival Day, or Chag Shavuot Sameach, Happy Weeks Festival. So if you see somebody on Shavuot, give them a Hag Sameach from me. Give them a Hag Shavuot Sameach from me. It's been my delight to learn about this stuff from you. If you have any questions, throw those in the chat. Maybe I'll make another video about it. And until next time, friends, delighted to learn with you as always. Peace. One more thing before you go, make sure if you liked the cut of this, one more thing before you go, if you want to keep learning with me, check out another video that's on this channel. I've got some links in the info below to a book that I wrote if you want to go deeper, and other ways that we can connect. But this was pretty great. So until next time, peace. All righty. I think those are most of the videos that I wanted to make today. That's about 2 or 3 videos right there. Plus, we've had some good chats. I'm just going to check the chat for all the people who've been back. I see Vit. I see Robert. Robert says, "Where have you been?" Try to explain that. I was at a synagogue that absorbed a lot of my attention, not least of which because it was COVID and we had a whole new world to figure out for a long time. So I was there for a while, but I took a bit of a sabbatical as I've been teaching in classrooms. I teach Hebrew at a local high school. I teach Sunday school someplace. I teach like a religious school someplace, and I continue to teach the Miller Intro to Judaism program. 2 sections right now. Another section coming up. If you have not yet taken the Miller Intro to Judaism class, uh, check out, I think it's intro.aju.edu. That'll forward you to the right information, or just look up Miller Introduction to Judaism on Google. I've seen several curricula for conversion classes or introduction to Judaism classes. I wrote a curriculum and delivered it in the Jew Curious School. The Miller program is still the best one that I've seen, so I highly recommend that if you want to get a good overview. Judaism, Jewish People 101. I happen to teach that class, so if you want to learn with me, ask for me by name. But all the teachers are great. Just sign up for it. And there's another class that's starting on, I believe, July 16th. So in a couple of weeks here, July 16th, we're going to be starting another one. Please check that out if you are curious about it. I see my friends Vit and Brett, and I'm here for the cheesecake. Me too, brother. Let's see. I think I probably prefer cheesecake to blintzes. Don't at me, blintz people. Good to see Aviva Hog Smack from sunny San Bernardino. Nice to see you. And Kay, of course. Uh, thank you guys so much for learning with me today. It's been delightful to be fluffy and sweet as always. Are you talking about cheesecake? You're talking about me. Oh, how are the children? So thank you. Um, all right. And you even got to meet my dogs, Callie and Guthrie. So until next time, friends, this has been a lot of fun for me. I hope it was some fun for you. I'll be slicing and dicing this into some educational videos for people. Thank you for being a great live studio audience. That's all for now. And then I'll just wish everybody a Chag Shavuot Sameach. Make sure you do some learning. Maybe, I don't know, watch my videos all night, or don't do that. That's a lot of John. So just I'm just so giddy to be back with you all. So thank you for being here, and yeah, onwards and upwards, and it's gonna be a good time. Oh, there's Guthrie. He's